Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Davis and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsor, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials, and the company has also printed so many people's Kickstarters that you have heard on this very show, including Sam Quinton, who actually showed off a few nights ago a Mixum product because he uses Mixum for 47 Furious Tales. So and then also they offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now they're actually running an amazing promotion where listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount off their first order. So that is Mixam.com. Type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab to get 5% off your first order, and every percentage point counts when you're trying to fund a Kickstarter. I'm sure my guest is going to attest to that at some point during this interview. And so without further ado, I have with me comic artist and comic creator Andrew Henry. So welcome to the show.
Many thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Actually, if you do love this show, please support this guy and support his sponsor. This is how these things comes live and these things go on complete. So
I also need the money. You know, I would like to buy like a monster tomorrow, and I'm broke. So I could use the money, guys. I could use the money. You know, I'm barely surviving. I have a Dr. Pepper right now, and the caffeine's keeping me alive. So I actually do need the money. But you know, all jokes aside, you currently have a Kickstarter that's being funded with your partner and your writing partner, who I think is in the UK, and that's Black Death Part 1, A Plagued Mind. And so obviously I've read some stuff about it. It looks like an awesome book in a lot of ways. It's definitely complicated. Complicated, I think, is a nice word to use. And what I mean by that is that it's a very layered story. It's like onions, guys. It has many layers. I was watching Shrek the other day. I'm sorry. It was too easy. But what is the basic premise for this comic for those hearing about it for the first time? Because there's a lot of stuff going on with it.
Yeah, actually, Black Death, when Stu came to me and he started talking about his big project, I was only thinking that maybe he's coming talking about superhero thing, or superhero things are fun to do, but you always know that what's going as a book, that superhero having his own struggles and fighting his villains, and he is winning at the end. This type of book actually are easy money for us artists and creators, but having some tension, sad moments, power ups and power downs are very complicated and rare gem into our industry. So when I looked at Stu's work reading Black Death, I actually found it fun because leading from how things are getting from boredom, how things are getting from typical routine day into action, into couple of pages. I did like this because when things were just calm and quiet for a couple of pages, after they get turned into action, they never stop the action. The action never stops till the end of the book. It's always tension, always action, always guns, explosions. I do love explosions, actually, and Stu did give me a lot of explosions to do. So many thanks, Stu.
So to even go further into this, because obviously a lot's going on, and I didn't view this book as a superhero book, but it's superhero-esque in my world, meaning that it's not the traditional Batman, Superman, it's not DC, Marvel. When I have a very narrow view of superheroes, when somebody says I'm doing a superhero book, I expect it to be like DC Marvel, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I love the Justice League, I
Yeah.
love the Teen Titans. I'm a huge Teen Titans guy.
Mm.
80s Teen Titans is like my go-to thing, and I just read the Eat Bane Kill Tour Harley Quinn from straight from the animated series. DC's best work in the last 10 years by far, which is crazy. It's crazy that that book is DC's best work. Um,
Yeah.
but this to me is sort of supernatural, and it's got more of like superhero-esque,
Mm.
where we have a force of good in a lot of ways, and we have an evil force, but we also have, not everybody is so innocent per se, and
Yeah.
people are, complicated in this. And that's
Mm.
why I'm very much gravitated towards it, because we don't have pretty boy Superman flying around. We don't have Captain America, representing American values purely. You
Mm.
know, there's stuff going on here. And so I'm
Yeah.
super curious, like, what was this like, for you to get this story and even start writing it? Because we're going to dive into the characters, but even like, how did this idea even come across your desk? And then how did you expand upon those ideas that are being portrayed in it? And I'm
Mm.
speaking vaguely because hopefully you'll fill in some of the blanks
Yeah,
without
yeah,
giving
yeah.
too much away.
Actually, superhero books are fun to read, and they are so good and so important actually to our industry. You got my message. What I was saying, not what I'm saying completely. Actually, what I meant that there's too many books that don't care about the plot, don't care about how the story movements, how the characters evolve. When you read the Batman Who Laughs and Court of Owls, these are awesome books. That's well written, well drawn, well amazing plot. So yeah, superheroes, when you do write them right, they are going to be epic. So it's not, I'm not like I'm talking bad about superheroes
Well, I'm not talking
or
bad either,
yeah.
but it's this idea for me. So, like, one of my favorite two books is so the three books that are three series that I love is
Mm.
um, Fear Itself from Marvel. I thought was really
Mm.
well done.
Yeah,
Civil War from Marvel is great,
amazing.
and then Civil War is one of the best series ever. The
Yeah,
main
true.
series, I bought Civil War like 5 times in trade, by the way, because I love it
Oh.
that much. And the final one that I bought everybody was the hardcover of the
Mhm.
main story, and then I still have that, worth like the $50 to spend on it, completely worth every penny.
Mm.
And then Blackest Night, because I'm a huge Green Lantern fan,
Mhm.
and the whole thing for me is that like those stories are epic and there's a lot of stuff going on,
Yeah.
and you get the superheroes elements of it as what I call core superhero elements. Civil
Mhm.
War, you get a lot of stuff going on, but
Mhm.
what I like about your book and what you're doing is that we're dealing with sort of somebody who's coming into their powers,
Yeah.
and that they're dealing with some family issues, and they're a teenager,
Exactly.
and let's face it, teenagers are stupid, if for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. I am 28. It's not that long ago that I was a teenager, and I was moronic as a teenager. And I
Mhm.
don't. And anybody says they were smart as a teenager, I was educated, I was bright, and I'm a bright teenager. But even still, I didn't have wisdom.
Mhm.
And obviously, Kurt Tanner, who's the guy who's coming into
Exactly.
his powers, doesn't have wisdom. He doesn't fully grasp what he's dealing with. But there's also stuff that his family isn't telling him, and his dad's sort of a secret agent, and then it's a family member close family friend who is, knows something, and then
Yeah.
Kurt's mom is not around.
Yeah. That's you say, and you nailed it right. Kurt is having hard times indeed adapting to his own universe and the universe coming upon him, because the universe coming upon him is very big and very destructive, have very dark figures and organizations leading it with a very ancient cult. I'm not going to spoil any fun about this part, but um, with characters like Vampirio and his own organization coming into this, it adds tension, makes it mysterious, because we don't know what does this guy want. Actually, when you read a couple of pages uh, from the script and a couple of pages that's written into, if I can find them on Kickstarter or on the campaign, he's talking about a bomb. We don't know what's this bomb going to do, and where's the location. Why? What does this bomb have to do with that upcoming event? But when you read how the characters are evolving with this with this mysterious thing, Kurt just listens. Actually, your mind just come flipping this thing over and over and over till you find this thing is getting serious. This thing is getting big. Why are this gang acting like this? After this, you find that you're getting into a very big organization, organized terrorist stuff, agents, agent stuff. So this is actually what's going to happen, that we do have characters that are fighting everyone for his own greater good, because we don't know yet what is Vampiriu.
We froze.
Yeah,
You're back.
yeah. So,
Froze for like 2 seconds.
Oh yeah.
So to even dive further into this, because obviously these characters are being thrown into what would I view as a war, because the main villain, and just to give a little bit of insight here, is named Vampiro.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's a secret or ruining it too much, but Vampiro's been around forever, for centuries at this point. And there's been, I don't want to say it's Armageddon, but the Vampiro's been operating in the shadows and has been manipulating a bunch of stuff for a while now, way before any of the main characters have been alive. And obviously, I'm taking a leap of faith here, but they must have some connection to this thing that's been going on, and possibly with these events that have been manipulated, or they're just sort of discovered it and that they're connected, or they're, fighting against it. And Will's father's obviously involved, and he's sort of shielding, or not Will's, Kurt's father is shielding him. And it's this idea that that's what's going on, and there's stuff going on, and then obviously there's emotional toil going on. And I think it's safe to say that whether Kurt is acknowledging it or not, he has to be somewhat hurting and feeling the pain of his mom not being around. And that's a big issue in this entire comic as well. So what is that like to really touch upon this? Because there's a lot of moving parts just with Kurt. And obviously he's now facing an adversary who has centuries of learning about his powers and what he can use, Vampiro can use. And now Kurt is just coming into all this all at the same time and really raising that, and not having the luxury, for lack of a better word, of saying, I have the training montage that we see in all those movies. When you think of the Karate Kid, you're the best around, the entire training montage that prepares Daniel. I don't think Kurt really has that in this comic, because the threats are coming pretty quick.
This is what makes him extraordinary, because what we see with Kurt going on the first graphic novel, on the first part of the Black Death series, because it's a graphic novel with a part series. We're going to see more parts in the future. what we're going to see in the part one is all his own father's training, Stephen's training. So as you can see from that bulky dude with the birds, that you can find him tough and having knowledge with some kind of weapons, action, rolling over, and doing stuff. He is a military dude. Unless how could he save for his own son? I'm not talking about very deep explanations about this, but this man Stephen is not a dude you would like to mess with, because he have background military issues and he knows some connections. So this is how Kurt is going to have uh, his own experience for fighting, like hand-to-hand combat, pistols and explosion stuff, and raids and grenade launchers and rocket launchers into part one. But later we are going to see Kurt using his full on potential, because uh, he is not a full cyborg, or he's not a full metal thing that doesn't know how to act, or does know how to act with the world outside. He knows this goes maybe like uh, Stu have his own plans for this, like maybe like Big Hero 6 from Disney.
Yeah. I love Big Hero 6. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I
So
love it. I love it. It's a great movie.
yeah, this is why we got character like Damien. Damien is like he's our crazy scientist that we are going to introduce into part one. He is a very crazy that's going to teach Kurt and tell Kurt about his own powers and his own skills, and how can he use them for his own greater good. You will find that there is a huge transformation into Kurt mentality, Kurt physical body actually too. That you find that he sounds like terrified, scared, and doesn't know how to handle things in part one. Part two, at the end of part one, you'll find that Kurt's character is more strict. He knows what he's doing, and he believes in his own cause and the saving others and the cause of his mom. The responsibility for not having his mom and acting with that daily routines, learning from his father, because father is overprotective. Stephen is overprotective for
For a
him.
good reason. I mean, there's a good reason why. I mean, let's not pretend here. There's a big threat that
Yeah,
wants to hurt. Kurt. It's not that his father, who's ex-military, knows something, and that's what makes this so interesting. Is that it raises the question of parents want to protect their kids, but also you got to let your kid defend, and your kid is also the weapon. Have you seen Naruto by any chance?
seen what?
Have you seen Naruto?
Yeah, of course, Naruto. Yeah,
There's the scene before the Great War, or during the Great War, where you have like Kakashi and you have Guy Sensei and you have Yamato, I think, all basically with Killer Bee and Naruto are all segregated away from the war, and they know for a fact that they want to keep Naruto as long out of the war as possible,
yeah,
because they want to keep him out of danger, because they know he's like the weapon, and then on top of that, they also know that once he's unleashed, he's going to just tear through everything in his path to get to a point. And
exactly.
that's exactly what happens. And obviously certain things happen and certain tactical decisions are made by the Shikamaru clan of all people, the Nara clan, which is the greatest character in Naruto ever, is Shikamaru.
Yeah,
Tom Gibbs, who plays him, has been on my show, so great interview and phenomenal and really cool interview. I'm gonna add that in there, but this seems to be very similar to that with Kurt, where it's the idea that he's sort of a secret weapon, and I think his dad to some degree knows, saying, "Look, you know,
Mhm.
I can't unleash my kid just yet because my kid is
Mhm.
a dumbass, for lack of a better word."
Yeah. That's so right. While this thing differs between Kurt, because this organization doesn't think Kurt is a weapon they can use actually, because it was just a mere test subject to things more to come. Because when you see what Kurt can do with his own powers, you think, "Oh, this is amazing! This is awesome! This character is no one can stand up to him." But later you'll find that he is just a toy for the more massive weaponry coming from these organizations. Because he's not the only weapon in Black Death. There is a
It's
bunch.
similar to Uber. I don't know if you've read Uber.
Yeah, I know Uber.
And Uber, which is Kieran, should I forget the guy's name? It'd be a great interview. And Keenan White did a bunch of work on Uber, the comic. And we have these superpowered humans legitly destroying each other in the
Yeah.
middle of World War II. It's alternative history. Some people love it, some people don't like it. I understand why some people don't like it because, well, you have superpowered Nazis kicking
Mhm.
ass. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying I like Nazis because I don't, but it's the idea that it's a very interesting comic. And we're all
Mhm.
adults in the room. We could all have adult conversations understanding what that comic's point is.
Yeah.
If you think that comic is for Nazis, you haven't read that comic deep enough. It's Kanan White, for those who are interested, is black, and he illustrated the first 6 issues. I highly doubt that if it was a pro-Nazi comic that he would have worked on it. I highly doubt it. But the idea is that there's a lot of stuff going on, and then fast forward to your book. Not that I don't want to continue talking about Uber because I love Uber. Don't get me wrong. But fast forward, obviously the other side is sort of building out all this stuff, and they have centuries, and it's a very interesting foil that's going
Yeah.
on because we have ex-military, ex-special force. We got new coming powers
Exactly.
coming in versus also military and mad scientists, and but also knowledge that is being thrown at this force that I guess I'm not even too sure what we call Kurt, his father, and their friend who's a technology expert, but it creates a very interesting clash because it's almost new and innocence and lack of knowledge, but great power versus
Mhm.
old power and knowledge and mastery of a skill and mastery of power to some degree. And that's where this conflict is sort of heading. And in issue 1 and part 1, we see only a little bit of what's coming.
Mhm.
And so what is that like for you? Because you're the artist on it. And obviously you have some input on it. And what is that like for you to draw that and really capture that? Because we're really getting that sort of big fight, good versus evil type mentality occurring.
Mhm. So, you were asking that how was I able to show how was I able to show that?
Even capturing it and creating the mentality because this is not anymore just Superman versus Lex Luthor. To go back to the DC comics where we have 6 issues, we know Lex Luthor's not going to die, we know Superman's not going to die, Superman might get a little bloody, or Superman flies in the next 4 issues. Superman is saying, "How do I get out of this prison?" And how do I get out of this circumstance? And then in issue 6, he gets out and then he captures Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor says, "Drats," and then
Yeah,
we start a new arc. This is not that, where clearly the stakes are raised higher, and there's a lot more moving parts going on in this. And so, as
exactly.
the artist, what is that like for you when you're thrown something where anything could happen? In midway in the book, somebody could get
Well,
killed.
what you just said, it's a very good question actually. Well, Stu wrote it let's think about like he gave Kurt four character transformations into part one. Four character transformations were like innocent and bored, then he is not like disbelief or can't understand what's going against him, and uh, and the fourth transformation is being chaotic about every single. So when you look at the character design, you will find his face is typical, the same face from the start of the book and the end of the book. What I did change about this was the lights and the hair. When first I started drawing Kurt and illustrating Kurt, you will find that his face is not having too much shadows, too much complicated lines to show that he's having a very simple life. Even the lines of the page of the first couple of pages you find there are easy lines with some easy typical lights, daylights. In a couple of pages you'll find that it totally transformed into a little pitch dark there with more shadows. After that, you'll find the transformation I did for his disbelief, the part that he can't understand what's going around, and adding more dark lines, cross hatching to the shadows. This did give the book a new atmosphere. That's the part was going to move to the last chaotic part.
To even talk about that, because one of the things that's very interesting that I feel in indie is that, and this is why, you know, I'm gravitating towards more indie books and more books obscure. And obviously, I'm also gravitating to reading more military comics and oriented comics, and I have certain relationships that fulfilled that need for me. Um, because this is where things I feel are getting pushed in storytelling. And that's not to say mainstream comic writers aren't doing, you know, good work, but you know, I don't love Ty Lopez. He's a marketer. For those who don't know who Ty Lopez is, he used to do a lot of stuff on Facebook. You'll see his ads every once in a while pop up on Facebook. But what he said is that a lot of the good stuff with whatever you're learning in any sector is sort of in the corner on the shelf in Barnes and Noble that will change your life. And that's not to say something like Jonathan Hickman or, you know, Scott Snyder or Tom King or, you know, Aaron, you know, Jason Aaron, you know, at Marvel, they're not good writers, or Scotty Young. But what I feel is that what's really pushing the line in storytelling right now is indie. Because what you just described, and even artwork, is that as this book is going on, we're starting to see more and more wear and tear in the art. And we're starting to see, you know, from a very simplistic level all the way down, and we're starting to see those brilliant positions being written. You know, I happen to think that, you know, Nocturne is not a bad book. I think Scott Snyder did a great job with that, but I don't feel like it's pushing the line. I don't think Berserk pushed the line either. I thought it was just a traditional, you know, DC Marvel book that wasn't, you know, slightly different, was done indie, but didn't really add anything to the marketplace. And that's not to say that, you know, and people say, oh, this is all the top guys coming into indie. And I'm like, but they're not. They're giving you 5% indie, 95% DC, 95% Marvel, 95% Image. They're not giving you an indie book. You know, I haven't read a DC indie book in a long time. You know, I really haven't. I've read a DC book that has some indie elements in it, and Nocturna is that. And I like Scott Snyder. He follows me on Twitter. God knows why. I'm not that impressive yet. But joking aside, this is what I think, and so I'm super curious how you feel about that and where that's going, because this is where I feel that, you know, comics are getting weird for me, because with all the top guys now going to indie, you're not indie. This is not, you're not pushing the line of what indie comics did. You know, you look at things like what Dennis Kitchen did in the 90s with like Kitchen Sink Press, and teaming up with like Mirage Studios, like that stuff, with like The Crow and a variety of other stuff. And even early Zenescope was pushing the line. Like Wonderland in 2007, 2008 was pushing lines.
Mhm.
And like I feel that like what you're talking about is you're pushing lines, and pushing lines, just so everybody's aware, and just so I clarify, is not being offensive. It's just saying we're trying something new here. We're trying a new idea, and we're seeing how far we can take this idea. So I'm curious how you feel about all that. I know I threw a lot at you.
Yeah, I did work with a couple indie titles before, but I do know and enjoy working on the indie industry. Actually, you still can't, as you said, you still call it indie forever, because at some point we are turning this industry upside down. Actually, because even the big publisher, you just past months or the past 2 months, actually, DC made a contract with Webtoon, unleashing Bat Family on Webtoon. Because even the big names, even the big industry, are turning into the industry. But what we can see here with Black Death, actually, Stu did his homework right. Because he did mix it well between the superpowered creature stuff, seeking his own journey to know and understand more about his past and his the medium he is living into and the future. Because he is kind of more a cyborg. Maybe we can see more upgrades to his body, more upgrades to his mindset, more upgrades to his mentality. We still got more to see from Damien. So yeah, this what Stu did was actually he did love Judge Dredd, he did love Batman, he did love
Yeah.
big big names from the industry. So in Terminator 2. So when he transformed his passion, his love, his love for comics into his own writings, he came with Black Death. Actually, he told me Black Death was a very early dream of his. He did want to make it while he was a kid. Actually, he even said this at his own at the video, at the promotion video on the campaign. So, giving the objects and the main subjects of this story, he did it well, mixing all the names I told you. Do you know Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, I'm well aware of Solid Snake. Snake.
Oh, okay. Well, when Stu came with the script and I started reading, he gave me a feeling that I'm getting involved into a book with a secret military weapons and secret organization with the military. So I headed to him and asked him, "Do you know Metal Gear Solid?" He actually said no. This he wasn't interested into Metal Gear Solid and didn't have a back story about it. So it was a big surprise for me that he did amazing job using all these materials and grasping them into one thing, that he's using superhero stuff and military stuff, cyber future weapons and things like that. Even when you look at the weapons that I have drawn into and use them as 3D objects at this comic, you'll find them. I'm trying to mimic what Stu just said on the paper, because
So to even talk about that, because one of the things that I think is so interesting about indie, and I think this is going to highlight that, is that you guys are not afraid to experiment with certain things. Throwing into this idea of military and cybernetics and elements from obviously Cyberforce and Cyberpunk in there, which is really hot, and then saying, look, let's throw a superhero element into it, and let's throw some artwork where we start off with a simple title, and not a simple title, but simple artwork and very happy and very cheerful art, and then we're adding, more depth as the story gets more depth, and that even you're willing to experiment, and this is where I think I was alluding with the question a little bit, is that this is where I feel like indie comics are thriving, is that there's this element now where in indie comics they say, look, we don't know if something's going to work in this comic, but I'm willing to take the risk that we're going to try and make it happen. And that's what I think is going on in your book in a lot of ways. And what I've seen of it and in the pages I've seen of it is that there's a lot of experimentation in it. And
Exactly.
I'm going to say it openly, and I say it somewhat nicely, is that I think certain things in this are going to hit really, really well. And I think certain elements might slightly miss, but that's what the whole point of indie comics is, I feel, is that we're trying to push it. We look at Blackest Night, perfect example, and I love Blackest Night, but everything in that book was not a risk. I hate to say it. Marvel took no. DC did Blackest Night. DC took very little risk on Blackest Night. Where Blackest Night was going to fail as a concept, it wasn't going to fail in the pages. A book like Civil War was not going to fail in the art or the story itself. It was going to fail in its concept. This book can fail or succeed on every level, and that's what I think indie comics is. And the fact that you're saying, hey, look, I'm throwing these weapons in there, and I'm trying to bring this, what is on paper that a certain gun looks like, the cybernetic element, and you're saying, look, we're combining a bunch of elements together that might not work if but we're blending it and see what happens. You're throwing it all in the blender, and let's see how it tastes. And
this is what happens with games. Actually, you mix a couple of germs into a game, and you don't think if it's going to be a hit or not, and suddenly you find it's going to turn into a hit.
I'll give you a better one, comedy, right? So comedy, I'm in America, you're in Egypt, okay? I guarantee you that if a joke is good, it's funny to me and it's funny to you, okay? The joke is good. Now, when you hear a joke, I'm trying to think of something that's not offensive, that's hilarious. South Park is great. South Park takes a concept and they take something that's messed up or that is very sensitive, and they flip it upside its head that everybody gets because they took an idea that is, not normal. Or I'll give a better, more direct example. All I do is chew gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of gum, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody gets that joke because everybody's like, oh, now I know it's on for real. And so that's kind of, I think, what you're doing really well. And so what is that like? Just because it's so interesting. This is why I'm really gravitating towards indie right now, because those risks are much higher than in a traditional book that mainstream puts out.
Well, this thing actually comes from hard study to the market, hard study to understanding your own skills, and as a writer and as an artist. Because what you just said, if the joke is good enough, everybody in every language or every persona will laugh at it. So this is what happened with this book, because we didn't want it to be at a medium level action or medium level gore, because we are going to have some gory stuff, because every image I send them to Stu first before he confirm it, before I move to the inking part and the coloring part. Just, are you going to add blood? Are you going to add some severe meat going here and there? I thought, Stu, this is a special effects I'm going to add while I'm coloring. So he did know that this stuff is going, if we are going an action scene, we're going to do it to the maximum stuff. And when I see him adding action stuff, I try I try my best duty as an artist here to make it extreme, make it like an ultimate scene with. Um, when I did illustrated the scene, the chapter when uh, the house is having explosions and Kurt is shocked for the first time to see what he can do, what he can do. You'll find that I did this part. I did study actually some scenes from movies, some blockbuster movies, when with Batman series and a couple animated shows, so you can understand how this is going to happen. Um, I have that knowledge from other movies from Japan, anime movies, and other live movies from Japan too, and movies from my country. So I do know what action scene is going from UK, United States, Egypt, Middle East, and Japan. So using them to my advantage, gave what you just said, trying to beat it.
You mentioned something super interesting as well, because obviously you're the artist and that you're doing the inking and you're doing the coloring. And, you know,
My wife is doing the inking.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. I stand corrected, but I think the point I'm making, you know, and I'm going to revise my point, is that a lot of this is done in house, for lack of a better word. Versus saying, you know, obviously, you know, Stu is the writer, and then you're the artist, and then you do the pencils. Your wife is inking it, and then I think you're doing the colors, or she's doing the colors, and so
I'm doing the colors. Yeah.
And so, first off, you know, how are you inking, and how is it being inked? Is it being inked in more traditional with pens, or is it then scanned and then you're inking with scanning and after you flat it? Because obviously, digital coloring is different than Copic markers. You know, Sia Ohm does certain things with Copics, and then it's scanned in and touched up, which is a different way to do it.
Yeah.
I've had sketches done in Copics. And Elias Chazus did a sketch of mine that, you know, Zenoscope should be making it into a cover. It's that good. It's that good, and I'm going to be ordering another 4 of them when I go back to cons, and sometime, hopefully, rather soon rather than later. But it's the idea that how is that entire process being done? Because it is very interesting how different people do things differently now, where some people color more traditional, some people do inks, you know, digitally versus traditional, and some people also paint, you know, and paint their colors in, and then do watercolors, and then also some people do certain things where they will paint X, where they will Copic. I've never seen anybody Copic marker people, but I've seen people do paints on certain scenes and then digitalize it later on, and it's
so true.
I'm not artistically talented. I have the gift of gab, and that's about it.
Well, every artist, just as you said, have his own recipe for making things up. So when Andrew Henry starts making a project, any type of project, he starts first with pencils, layouts. I read the scripts and make layouts, a quick rough lines to show the creator, shows the writer, shows too how things are going, the motion, how I'm doing close-ups, action scenes, and objects, the background, and this stuff. After I get the confirmation for those, I move to the penciling part. So I start penciling and add the characters, study the shadow and light part, then show him the finished rendered pencils. Then I get the confirmation to move to the inking part. So I'm drawing pencils on traditional papers, traditional A3 papers. We don't have the comic boards here in Egypt or even Middle East. When I tried, asking them for when I went Dubai for Comic Con Dubai, I didn't find the comic books even sold there. So I'm back to uh, penciling them on just A3 papers. I scan them with any type of scanner. My scanner right now is Canon, so I'm using it to scan. The A3 papers are too big for the scanner, so I have to split it and glue it down on Photoshop. My wife did do this job because this job is so depressing for me, and I hate doing this. I hate watching my art being split down and cut down, even on digital, because it's like I'm splitting my heart.
I'm actually super curious, and then we're going to talk about colors because I appreciate art, and I have an appreciation for it, and I understand what goes into it. Like I can book a good cover, I can explain, and if you lined up, four different artists attempting to do something in a comic, I can say, okay, this page is going to work and this is going to work, but I can't draw it. But I am curious what the Egyptian scene looks like, and even the Middle East with comics. And again, we're going to be a little politically incorrect here, but I don't view, Egypt or the Middle East as a comic-centric element of the world. I'm sure there are people, just like everything else, that appreciate comics. I mean, manga in the 1930s and 40s was viewed as smut, and in going in 1910s, 1920s to 1930s, and even 40s, it was smut. I mean, so I get that things change over time, and I would imagine in Egypt it has changed in the last 30 years. I would imagine just like every other country, but it's not like it's in America. Comic books are cool in America. I don't know if they play Captain America in Egypt. That's a bad example. Iron Man in Egypt. Iron Man in Egypt. Much better example. Guardians of the Galaxy in Egypt. Much better example. I think it's very, very weird. Captain America in Egypt. I'm just saying. Unless you guys change it to Captain Egypt and then you just take out the America part.
Yeah. I know this too.
all jokes aside, what does it actually look like from a supplies position and even a cultural position? Because the three countries in the world that are the top three comic companies, it's Japan, France, and the US.
Well, I knew they are going to bring this question sooner or later since the start of the interview. So let's talk you talk about many stuff actually. So let's take one by one. The first one, what you mentioned, is the market actually. Well, the market here is not as things are going with the United States or United Kingdom or maybe some parts of Europe. Superheroes are not big stuff here. People here, if they do read comics, they do read daily life drama comics. They are more attracted to maybe thriller comics and
So they're probably more attracted to like webtoons and
exactly.
also more are they more attracted to like 4-panel things versus like a comic book or a graphic novel?
They are not so big onto the action things with zombies and explosions and stuff and superheroes wearing masks down. They think
It's an
this stuff
American
looks.
thing. It's an American thing. What can we say? I don't know in Egypt if you guys have fast cars because that's an American thing too. I'm just saying.
It's many of the books are talking here about maybe they do love the horror mystical stories, fan fictions about ghosts. They love the gang wars, comedy stuff, romance stuff. Uh, you can find it too many here actually. But the comic industry here, the comic industry in Egypt, it's not, the community is not that big. Actually, we got amazing artists. We got very talented artists that got big names even in other countries. But uh, our reach, our fans are not that big here. This returns maybe to the medium itself, the publishing. We are not having so wide published things
It's
on the
also
market.
at this stage as well in the entire, I guess, pop culture sphere. I mean, my audience in which that I'm trying to break into Australia.
Mm,
Obviously, I pick, and I'm gonna say this, and it's a very honest discussion where the places I want to market to are the UK, France, Japan,
mm,
Australia. I'm not hitting up Singapore, or I'm not going to hit up Egypt. I'm not going to
yeah.
hit up Israel. I'm not going to hit up the Congo or South Africa. It's
Mm,
not because people, I don't know if I have anybody who lives in South Africa who listens to me, right? I don't think I get any, I think I might have gotten like 5 views in the last year from Africa collectively. And it's
mm,
not, I would love to interview a comic artist from Africa. I think it'd be
mm,
interesting, or any of those countries that they have, whether it's South Africa, the Congo,
mm.
Botswana, where, but it doesn't happen because those people are not reading, indie comics.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is, a lot of, and I would imagine similar with Egypt, but at the same
Mm,
time, DC's in Egypt, Marvel's in Egypt, and also the internet is a great equalizer
yeah.
where for everything can be granted digitally out of that. And so I just think it's so interesting because at this point, I mean, in the last 22 months, I've gotten more comics delivered to my house from conventions, from different companies because they're all selling online. And they're doing a hell of a lot better than ever before. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't really want to go
Well,
back to the old stuff.
this stuff actually costs a ton of money when you're getting your own copy. So many ones are getting copies online. We did have stores back then a couple of years ago for comics and graphic novels and collectible figures, but uh, they weren't selling enough to the crowds. So the market here is not based about action. We do want, people here want more drama, more romance, more horror stuff. And back to the part with the tools. Actually, we do have many art students for the faculties of fine arts and other faculties that do study art. So we do have artistic tools here indeed for illustrators and stuff like inking
So
pens and brushes.
to talk about that, because obviously there's the market from a position of, buying comics and getting comics and producing comics and printing, and obviously, and also selling it in collectibles. I've never heard of an Egypt Comic Con. Great idea. I think it would be phenomenal to do it. I think from a press position, oh
Mm.
my God, I would get so much press if I created that idea. I don't know if you guys have convention centers or we could do it right outside the pyramids. I don't know what. But that'd be dope. Okay? Imagine I'm giving a panel talking about comic book investing and the pyramids in the background. Phenomenal marketing. Phenomenal. Just I would make more money by live streaming that than anything else.
Wow.
It'd be brilliant. It'd be brilliant.
I just love what you said. I love what you said so much. Actually, you are running some ideas into my head. Actually, we do have some couple conventions here, like Cairo Comics and Ishicon and other comic cons here, but they are not uh, giving the industry enough force here to the market, enough power to the market. We do
I
need
don't think it's
what you
that.
just said is it's so amazing actually. I
I
did
don't, I
love
don't
it.
think it's
Maybe I
that.
will use my connections to offer this idea to them.
I don't even think it's that. I just think this is how I feel about all of this, and then we're going to get into colors because I'm actually super curious about this. Is that I think the entire industry is not creative, and
Yeah.
right now, in full disclosure for everybody who's interested, I'm going through a lot of growing pains. I'm also pressed and I'm stressed out on about 50 things that are going on in my personal life, and a lot of stuff's going on, and also in the last 10 weeks, I've gone through a very hyper growth position where I've legitimately gone from 0 to 1,000 in about 10 weeks. And there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been, dealt with. And I'm building a lot of infrastructure right now. And it's a very painful position. And that's why certain things aren't working, because a lot of infrastructure is being developed and built. And it's probably going to be continued to be like this in what I'm doing. But I am becoming very creative. And I've been very creative from the start, where I figured out very early on as a panelist that I have a hard time walking. So what did I do? I created panels to go to cons to get a free ticket to go to anime and comic cons, did a panel to attract people to me because I
Yeah.
knew that I can't compete the other way around.
Yeah.
And I'm smart, and I build my panels and I build my ideas that way. And I feel like the entire industry collectively in comics is not creative. And what I find, and feel free to disagree, is that comic people are some of the most creative people on the planet in building stories and telling stories and using art. But when it comes time to marketing their Kickstarters, they don't get creative, and then they go hire people to help them get creative, and even those people aren't creative. I could shoot 15 ideas off, and I shot that idea about the Egyptian thing. You have a Comic-Con outside the pyramids. Your market is not in Egypt. It's the rest of the world, because who does that? And now you have a press point to talk about, and then you invite a bunch of people, like you invite Scott Snyder to Egypt, and he's doing a Batman panel outside of the pyramids. That's a talking point.
Yeah. Pyramid Con. Actually, I can see this now. Actually, I love this idea so much. Thanks to you.
But this is my gripe with comics, is that where I'm at right now is that I am definitely looking at the marketing side, because I have a marketing problem, and I'm reading a bunch of books on how to solve it. And again, in full disclosure, I've gone through hyper growth. Like, I don't think people understand what hyper growth looks like. I'm going through it right now, and getting a sponsor. It's a very complicated entity. I'm launching. I'm building out. I'm going to be finalizing the Kickstarter for season 3. It's the cat's out of the bag at this point. Like, there's a lot of stuff in hyper growth right
Yeah.
now, and that's launching on November 1st. I mean, I'm trying to pull somebody big on November 1st, and if I get what I want, it's gonna make my Kickstarter. The idea is that, but I'm going through that, and that's probably not going to stop for a good 3 months from this point, because there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm curious in how you feel about that, because to me, that's what I think is the greatest problem with indie comics right now, is that people don't know how to get creative in pushing out their content. They know how to create good content. They don't know how to get good, and I feel that legitimately people are leaving millions of dollars on the table. I know projects that have a $6,000 goal and they do $6,200, and I'm like, it's a good project. I don't think it's the greatest project. I don't think it's the worst project, but I think the project should have done more like 8 or 9. And I'm like, what was your marketing plan? And they're like, well, we had this plan and that plan, but they didn't get creative, you know. And if being on my show doesn't help you, it can only help a little bit. Being on 30 shows can only help a little bit. I just interviewed somebody and they did like 5,500 or $6,000, and they funded in 9 days, and they had 21 days left. And they only did $6,000, which is $1,000 or $1,500 over their mark. That means you failed creatively in marketing.
Well, my answer to this comes in
Pyramid Con, we're doing
do
it.
do your homework. Do your homework to study everything, every move you are moving, even the story. There is no problem in doubting your skills. No story, no
So
problem in
I,
that.
I think, I think, sorry to cut you off. I don't think there's a problem in creativity as far as building out a story. I think that is the easy part in comics. Now,
Mhm.
right now, I don't have anything in my head, and I'm beyond pressed to write anything. I have a rough outline of a project I want to write.
Mhm.
And again, everybody's gonna hate me when I drop it, and they're not gonna hate me because it's a good or bad project. They're gonna hate because they didn't think of it first. It's brilliant. What I want to do, and you're all gonna hate me because you're gonna be like, how did I not think of this first, which is great. But the idea for I think so many people just get lazy with marketing. It drives me
Yes.
crazy. Drives me
Yes.
crazy because I look at it, I'm like, I don't
This
know
is,
the
this is what,
exact.
what I just mentioned, that you need to do your homework, to study and understand. After you study and understand this, you don't have to be the standard person that the market needs. What you just said is very important, to be crazy, to have some courage, because making a good art piece is not about being skilled enough. It's not. It's about being courageous enough, having some courage enough to put all your emotions, all your feelings into this painting or this drawing. So yeah, after you have done all the work to create this awesome work, you need to be creative too, to be successful at marketing. So marketing is indeed a very big issue, and getting a sponsor for this marketing, maybe it's not working for the first time. Maybe it will work for the second time. Did you have your sponsor from the first season?
It took 8 years, eight
Oh,
years to get
see.
a sponsor. It
Hmm.
took, and I made two phone calls, and I thought I bombed it. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I thought I bombed my conversation, but I was just honest, and I said, look, I went in there saying I'm gonna suck. This is gonna take, and I thought it was gonna take like 10, 15 phone calls, and I went in there the right way. I felt, and I was very, very, very straightforward. I said, look, there's a lot of competition out there. I can't make any promises. All I know is that I'm willing to give you X amount for this. They countered me with a better offer, and I said yes. And I'm like, I'm in, and I was excited. But the idea was that I sort of knew my numbers, and I said, look, I'm expecting to make 15, 20 calls, and I've been in this space for 8 years. I did
Hmm.
not have a season in the beginning of my first season of this show, which was 90 episodes. I did not have a sponsor for the first 110 episodes, I want to say, of this season. So my sponsor is brand new, and this is the midway point. No, actually, this is the second. This is the second half of the sponsorship, member wise. But it's the idea that um, I just said, hey, let me just ask. But also my track record is I've been running my website for a while. I've been running my Facebook page for a while. I've been in the
Hmm.
YouTube space for a while. Like I've been involved in this space for over 10 years. So it's not like I'm a kid doing this, and I'm also beyond trackable. That's
Hmm.
the other thing too, is that I'm not a nobody anymore, and who I know in which that, and I'm not a business that's going out of business anytime soon. I have way too much time and money in this that Mixum knows where they can find me.
So
They know.
it's more try and error, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
this
crazy.
is what we're talking about. Try and error, try and error. There is no problem in failing. Just when you have an amazing idea, you just have to push it further and do everything you have and everything you don't have if you want to get this idea into the world
I
and
would even say
launch it.
I'm going to add something to that. Say also, notice throw out a bunch of stupid ideas.
Yeah.
I have a famous panel that's been cited in college theses called "Exploring Dystopia: Comparing Attack on Titan, 451, and The Walking Dead."
Mm.
Stupid idea that I just threw out one night, and I should have went to the selections and went to an internship class. I was supposed to go to another in DC once. We all make mistakes. That the Fahrenheit 451 lecture would have been much better. It would have been way more important to my career anyway. The idea though is that I was just throwing out an idea to my friend. He's like, oh, that's. I threw it out there. He sort of said, oh, that's interesting. And then I kind of ran with it. And then I thought about it all night long. And I just threw out an idea when we were just bullshitting. And sometimes that's where ideas come too. Also, even if you throw out an idea, you want to fund it on Kickstarter, it doesn't make it, that's fine too. It just means that that's one less stupid idea you have to throw out till you hit a good point. Because sometimes you got to get through a bunch of bad ideas to find a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. But even as you just said, marketing, try and error and find your own passion, and never stop dreaming. Never stop dreaming. We have been talking about this, and even my students from my workshops and the art drawing courses and how to draw comics stuff. I did here in my country and online. I keep saying, if you want to know what your future, it's what you do every day. What you are doing every day is your future. It's coming sooner or later. If you want to be an animator, are you doing enough animations every day? If you do want to be a comic artist, are you drawing comics every day? You can't be drawing pinups and just drawing sketches out there every day and think you are going to be a comic artist after 2 or 3 years. It doesn't happen. The world doesn't work like this.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Pyramid Con is coming next year. So
if we are going to make a Pyramid Con, I'm going to invite you as a guest for your own panel.
oh, I'll only go if you invite Scott Snyder and he comes. You know, I'm gonna tag him in this. It's gonna be really funny when he retweets it. So it's gonna be great. This entire interview,
it's going to cost a ton, but I will speak to sponsors and stuff about it. Make some phone calls and know what they're saying. If they're rejecting the ideas, I'm trying over and over again that we can make this right.
But and obviously this has been a great tangent, but I do want to get into colors because I know for a fact, and I know we're going to make a hard shift back into colors and coloring the book, and getting back into this entire project, because you do the colors, and colors make or break a book. Much like the art can, pencils can, inks can make a book as well. What is this like, finding the right color palette and even playing with it? And how do you do your colors? Because are you digitally doing it? Are you physically doing it? Is it a mixture of the two? Is it painted? Because it gets real tricky when you're figuring out colors. And again, I'm not an artist. All I know is that yellow and purple bounce off each other. Green and red bounce off each other. Orange and blue look nice together. White and black look great together. And a variety of other things and a bunch of colors sort of complement each other. And that's as far as I go with color theory. It's amazing I passed color theory art class in college.
Mm-hmm.
I got a B+, and I was stoked.
Coloring is very important to any stuff, especially into comics. When you try to express your atmosphere and express your the story, how is the storytelling, how is the motion, how is everything going on?
I'm a big cover guy, and I could tell you, so I love sexy girl pinups. I'm a huge Zenescope fan. I love sexy girl pinups, and I had like 300 of them. It's up on my Instagram of covers I own, and I love it, and I make good money on them when I resell them too. There's certain books that I absolutely love. And I can tell you for a fact that if you get your colors wrong on a girl and on a Zenescope pinup girl, man, it ruins her. It ruins her. And when you're coloring a female and you mess up her hair and you mess up the background and you mess up the bikini she's in, it ruins her. And I've seen bad pinups colored, and it's bad. And I've seen good pinups colored. And there's a difference between the two. and I've seen line work of pinups, and you can print it out for free, and you can color it wrong and right, and you'll see it immediately how you can ruin something.
Well, thinking about coloring a comic book is not so different than picking actors and backgrounds and costumes for movies. Because when you do this, you have to get into the atmosphere of the story. When I did read the script of Black Death, the first couple of pages where you have to give boredom and express this kind of daily routine to the reader. So I had to pick a couple, uh, pick green. Green is a color that gives you some calm to your soul and give calms to your eyes. I used green, but added to it some bluish tones. Blue tones gives you something like a mysterious look, not easy or not feeling so good with blue. After that, where I added to some purple. Purple made you kind of like annoyed with this mixture of these three colors together. Makes you not. You are feeling easy with the pace, but you are not being so restful with this. As I moved to the action scenes, I added more yellowish and red colors to the palette. So before I start every project, I have to look for the palettes out there before I start picking my own colors and playing with them. When I'm drawing the pencils, I'm imagining this scene with colors. I have been in the field for more than 20 years now, so I understand and I see how is this scene in full colors while I'm just drawing it into pencils and imagining how things are going into my head. I have a story on Webtoon and webcomics called "And Smile." Actually, it's my story and my art with my wife. It's more like a mysterious sci-fi action. The main theme, the main color of the story is blue tones. Blue, as I just said, it doesn't make you easy and gives you a thrilling look, gives you a mysterious look. When you look, do you know the trilogy of Batman, Christian Bale?
Yeah.
Of course. So the three movies have three different color tones. The first one is more a brownish, a sepia tone. It gives you a feeling that there is darkness coming upon Gotham City through through these brownish tones. Batman fighting fear, and you are kind of just feeling like there's heavy mud on you, and you are fighting your way through this dirtness, fighting your way through this overall bad ideas, and Batman thinking his way out of this. Well, the second one does have more bluish tones of the Joker. This is what I just said, adding thriller, and we don't know what Joker is doing next. Even Batman doesn't know this, so this is why they picked blue as a major color for this movie. As for the third one, we are using he is using more greenish and more bluish, and using other color palettes he used in the previous movies to give that there is a war going on here and everything is mixed up, everything is messed up. So picking color palette is very important to colors because it's going to express what is going to happen into this page even without adding a single word to it.
That's so fucking interesting. It's like no. And I say this not trying to be facetious or not even trying to be sarcastic. It's so interesting because obviously I get tones out of color, and I understand that when I'm reading, like, I just read and wrote a review on a book called Four Fisted Tales by Ben Towell. and it's animals in combat, and it's all these animals that have served in combat for pretty much all the way, from the Civil War to the Gulf War, and it's dealing with a lot of cool stuff that's going on. And so, rats detecting mines in Vietnam is a good example of it. The entire book is almost green, gray toned out. So you get a sense that it's done for a few reasons. A, it's a little bit cheaper because you don't need to color everything the same way. Ben Tao's a cartoonist, which also makes sense why it's done that way. But it also gives you a sense of war. It gives you a sense of saying, wait a second, this book feels like it's rugged. It was intentional. It was not chosen. It was not an accident. It wasn't that they ran out of money. It's by the Naval Press Institute as a whole Navy division and an Army division of comics, and I have a relationship with them. Full disclosure, they send me free books and I review them, and it's great. I'm happy because I'm getting a $25 comic that I would otherwise have to buy. It's a great trade for me because I like graphic novels and I get to throw it in my library. It's awesome. The point I'm trying to make is that it's very intentional, because they have other books that are in color. And so that's something that I think is very, very cool to the point where that makes or breaks the book and it adds a flavor to the book. When I look at covers for Zenescope, as I stated, there's certain things where if you don't color it right, it's going to ruin the book. Ebass uses Ulla Moss. J. Scott Campbell uses Ulla Moss or Nia Rufino. Those two women know how to color books because they understand. Every once in a while, Campbell will color a book himself. That I understand, but it's very rare to have J. Scott Campbell color because J. Scott Campbell doesn't color well. He doesn't. And it changes the entire nature of how a book is presented. And it's very important to understand that. And so even Mike DeBaffo sometimes won't color books. He has Nia color a lot of his books in a lot of ways. Same thing with Ulla Moss and Mike DeBaffo, or Sanju colors a lot of Mike DeBaffo books. It's an art, and it's an underappreciated art tremendously. But that Batman stuff is so interesting. I'm gonna go watch those movies now. It's so interesting. This is like the clip I'm gonna cut for Instagram right here. Talking about Batman. How I could ruin Batman for you. That Pyramid Cop. I'm telling you, somebody's going to steal this idea. And you know what it is? If somebody steals this idea before I get to do it or you get to do it, good on them, because this is brilliant. Think about all the comic book collectibles. Like, legitly, I will go create this just to produce a comic exclusives, and I will sell those things for so much money on eBay. Because people are going to be like, this is from Pyramid Con? What is Pyramid Con? Oh, Pyramid Con is Egypt's premier Comic-Con right in front of the pyramids. I think the Egyptian government is going to love you and me.
This is a huge obstacle, actually, talking with the Egyptian government about this, because they don't like this freaky stuff, actually. So this is going to be a hard stuff for me trying to convince officials about this. So, I'm going.
There's a simple solution. I'm 28. In 7 years, I'll run for president. I'll win a little foreign aid money, and we get it through. It's really a simple solution. I mean, I only have to win a presidential election. I mean, I only need 270 electoral votes to do it. I only need 270 to do it. And then, technically speaking, you could rule by executive order, and I'll be good. I may only get 4 years, but I'll get it done.
Back to the Pyramid Con. I'm going to do my best, actually, to try and connections to make this happen. No, if this is going to happen, I'm giving you a credit for the idea.
I seriously think that this can be done. I don't think it's as complicated as I think things are changing. But anyway, getting back to the actual book, because we've spoken more about everything but the book in this entire interview. which is not my intention. These interviews take on a mind of their own. You know, I wrote a bunch of questions and I sent you my questions too,
Yeah.
which is even worse because like legitimately we have gone so far off of the guide that the guide is irrelevant at this point. That I sent you and my outline is horrific.
Actually, we were talking about the colors. I was talking about Black Death because moving through the colors of Black Death, it was a very important step for this book to express all Stu emotions. Because Stu is like he's going through having a momentum, a down, ups, down, ups with emotions of the character. So I had to express his momentum, had to express his emotions while writing. So to using this color. So we didn't go off the topic. I'm using examples to tell how me and Stu did
Yes.
our job right. If Stu hears this part, he's going to kill me over this.
I'm only kidding, and these things take on a path of their own, and they're meant to at this point because the whole point of what we're doing is we're having a conversation, and everything is so comic related, and then if
Yeah.
somebody actually sits down and listens and actually hears about the Batman thing, they're going to instantly understand how important colors are because
Yeah.
nobody has these conversations with colorists. I've only interviewed like one colorist, and that was Sandru Navagun, and we had a discussion, and we had like an hour and a half discussion about coloring, and it's the same thing with lettering, is that stuff is not spoken about, and it's a real issue in comics because that stuff can make or break. People speak to editors. I had Denny O'Neil before he passed away. Rest in peace, Denny. And we spoke about Batman and editing. People speak to people who do TV with comics or vice presidents of comic companies or publishers. Those people get spoken to, but colorists never get spoken to. And people don't understand how important it is. A colorist makes or breaks a book. An inker makes or breaks a book. A letterer can make or break a book. And those things need to be spoken about. So if somebody goes and listens to this, and they say, wait a second, I'm producing a comic and I'm not paying attention to my colorist, well, your book might actually fail because nobody's paying attention to the little detail. And I hate to say this, but I'm a guy, you're a guy, I'm a very visual creature by nature. Men tend to be visual creatures. So when I'm reading a comic and I see pictures and I see colors, I instantly connect dots. Women, not saying they're not visual, but they're not as visual as men are by definition. And I get it. It's not PC, but scientifically that is true. It's a reason why men are attracted to women who wear certain clothes. Lines of
Here is an example. Am I allowed to share screen?
Oh yeah, please do.
Okay. Here is something that I'm going to confirm what we just saying.
It's not nudity, right?
No, no.
Let me know when you add it in, because you should be able to. Yeah, here we go.
Well, as you can see here, this panel actually we are just showing that with the standard yellow colors of the room. This from the previous page. After that, we are going to move to the grenade motion being thrown into the room. We're having more complicated lines here to show that the transformation moving between the first panel and the third one. While we move to the last one, we're going to find the whole color palette have just changed to add the reddish tone. The reddish tone, it's like an off to the eye, like you are going, oh, This too much glowy stuff right here that's going. This is what's happening. We are transforming the chapter, we are transforming the arc, transforming the scene from uh, giving you some kind of safety, giving you some kind of you are being quiet, you are feeling good, to something irritating to your eyes, to make things go kind of more chaotic, go shocking to the readers. So this is what happens with the couple next page when we add this orange reddish tone to the scenes and moving through the panels. This is what happens when you play with the characters and play with the scenes. When you can look at inside the house of Kurt and Steven, things are getting ugly inside the room. While when you look outside through the window, you'll find it's like it's mysterious.
I like a gun in that photo. That's awesome.
Yeah. This is the part I love making with Stu work exactly because drawing them. I can draw guns. You can. We will find later that there is guns being drawn into this book. But I found that making the gun 3D gives you more thrilling feeling, gives you uneasy feeling about this. So this is what I did want with the book. That there's some scenes you will find the weapon, the vehicles are in 3D. It's not to make my job easier only. It's to give some feeling to the reader, some feeling to the one who is flipping through the page to understand this. This is getting big. This is getting serious right here. So I just wanted to show a couple of pages to.
I really, really like your Resident Evil 2 artwork.
Yeah.
I just beat Resident Evil 2 the other day, so there you go. except I like playing as Claire more than Leon.
Yeah, same thing happened here.
I thoroughly enjoy the remake of Resident Evil 2. Worth every penny. Very, very cool game. I like the soundtrack for Resident Evil 2. And then I like Mercenaries and all the fun weapons in that. And Resident Evil 2 Mercenaries is a lot of fun.
Mhm.
In fact, I really, really enjoyed on the 3DS Resident Evil Mercenaries 3DS because that is an amazing game, and that should just be an arcade game where just kill as many as you can, no limit on anything, and that you have like 15 minutes of just zombie killing and whatever else you want. And combo mode is the best. When you have a partner, oh, it's the best. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I digress. So obviously a lot's going on with this thing. It's 80 pages, and there's going to be books 2 and 3, I think, are written. And you're just waiting for this Kickstarter to fund and then do fulfillment on it and make sure people get it before you start pushing out the second one. Because that's a big issue. And I don't know how many Kickstarters. Is this you and Sue's first that you're working on?
This is our first, but I guarantee it's not going to be our last. Because
I'm asking a pointed question for a reason. One of the issues, and you've backed Kickstarters right before this, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a pet peeve for you, but it's a pet peeve for me. Is that I hate when people do a Kickstarter and then they haven't fulfilled on the first book, and they will. That's not the issue. But then they want me to back their project for the second issue that hasn't come out yet, and I haven't gotten my first issue first, and you haven't fulfilled on it, but then you're asking me for money, and it creates a problem for me because what if I don't like the first issue, but I want to support you, and then you put me into a position where I now haven't gotten my second issue yet, and then you're coming to me for the third issue, but you haven't fulfilled on the second. And I don't think people should be running Kickstarters that way within the same series without fulfilling, because it bothers me. I understand that everybody says, oh, I'm going to get it out in August and then they get it out in October. I get that. That bothers me a little bit, but I understand. What bothers me a lot right now is that I have backed 32 Kickstarters and some of them are still funding. I would say about 14 of them haven't delivered yet to me. It's a lot. I have 14 outstanding Kickstarters, and a lot of these people are running projects at the exact same time, or they finish one and then they run their second series and they run a third series and a fourth series, and then they're not going to deliver me a book till April of next year. I'm like, explain. So how do you feel, and how does that affect you as a Kickstarter? Because are you going to be making sure everybody gets book one or part one of this before you start Kickstarter 2, or are you going to say, hey, look, we're going to be shipping out in 2 weeks and we're going to get the jump on it? Because I understand both sides of it, but it bothers me as a consumer. And as somebody who came from mainstream into indie, I didn't go from indie to mainstream. I was mainstream first. And so it's a very weird adjustment for me, because previews, it's only $2.50. It's different when I'm spending $25 for a book and I don't have it in my hands and you're asking me for another 25. 10 times the amount you're asking for.
So there's two important things when it comes to Kickstarters, Indiegogo, or any other platform for funding creators, actually, because those two things are exchange and respect. When you're going to a Comic-Con and another creator, when you are a well-known creator and you are talking for a well-known creator for the first time, the first thing you do after talking for a couple of minutes, you exchange your works together. If you have a graphic novel, you give your graphic novel for him, and if he have a graphic novel, of course he's going his copy of the graphic novel to you. This thing happens to Kickstarter. When you do want others to support you, you have to support them, or you are going selfish about this, and there is no selfish part into our industry. If you are going to give others things, you have to help others. You can't be thinking about your own self the whole time.
Also, not to interrupt, but I think it's relevant. So I only back one project a month. It's not that I'm not interested in supporting, but you have to earn my dollar at this point. But I also interview a lot of people. I mean, I'm going to be hitting probably 90 to 100 Kickstarters. Giving isn't just anymore of, saying, hey, I'm going to buy your book. Because what is, if you get on my show, you're getting introduced, you're on media, you're getting pushed out, you're on a show, you're getting the opportunity to explain whatever you want to talk about. You're getting an opportunity to talk to a bunch of people. And then right now, this is not in a podcast, but it's coming. Not to mention that I push it out into groups. I'm another arm to push it out, because you can only push things out so many times on a Facebook group before you get in trouble. You run one, I run one. It's the idea that if I was pushing out this podcast every day in your group, actually I do that, but that's not the point. I'm pushing, but I don't push out the same episode every day. I push out new content, and then also there's been weeks where I haven't pushed anything out. The idea though is that you can only push out your Kickstarter so many times in a group before it gets old. And when you are on an interview, that's a form of giving. Now, I understand everybody wants money. I'm launching one. I want money. Okay? But if somebody says to me, hey, I have an interview show, I don't want to support your Kickstarter, but I'll happily have you on, I'll take it, because that's as good as cash to me. Because if I could reach 15 more people and then one of them buys, I'm thrilled. If none of them buy, but I reach 15 more people and they were entertained, and then they start recognizing Andrew Davis, pop out.
This is what I'm going to say, respect. Respect is the second thing, because you don't have to support by buying it only, maybe sharing and talking about others about this project you are waiting for.
Introducing somebody to somebody. You know what it is? So I was fortunate enough, And I tell this story. So I had Paul Levitz as a professor. He ran DC Comics for a while. He had the greatest internship that never ended. And Paul Levitz is great. So he mentioned a name to me, Howard Cruz, that he's like, oh, yeah, graphic novels people should read, because apparently in my class that he was teaching, they're having a hard time finding graphic novels. And he said, oh, yeah, Howard Cruz. And so I reached out to Howard Cruz and said, oh, yeah, I'm taking, Paul Levitz, I'm taking this class. I'm in Annabelle College. You recommended Stock Rubber Baby. I just picked it up. Man, I loved your book. And I would love to talk to you. And Levitz was like, it helped that he just made a recommendation. He didn't introduce me to anybody. He made a recommendation of somebody I should possibly look at. And then his name carried weight. When I got Denny O'Neil, his name carried weight. Carrying weight helps. And even just being on friendly terms where somebody trusts you enough to mention their name is helpful.
That's so right. That's so damn right.
So obviously, but continue what you were saying, because I rudely interrupted.
No, it's okay. So we were talking about respect and exchange. Those are the major two things that you have on funding goal into the industry, and not being selfish, thinking about yourself. So if you can't support by money, support by sharing, support, as Andrew Davis here is doing his interviews things to support others. When he came to me and Stu asking about this interview, I actually was thrilled. Yeah, we need this at this time. We need to talk about our project. We need to speak about it. Sadly, Stu didn't have the time, because he was already scheduled, because he worked so late at night, and he can't take day off, because this is a season for him and for his work.
No, and that's the thing too. That obviously I offer live reads on my show, and I understand completely that. So what we're doing right now, for those who are very interested, most people in society are terrified to speak. If you are running a podcast and you are interviewing or just ranting by yourself on current events and doing it by yourself, commenting on news, congratulations, you are in like the upper 10% of society who is not scared to public speak. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have. I speak to people who are terrified to public speak.
I used to speak on stage, so and talk about stuff and give lectures. So this thing is easy, and I know it's easy for Stu to, because he's a man working actually working behind the scenes, behind the stage. So I know he can do this easily, but he can't do this.
One of the things that the reason why I bring this up is that one of my rewards on my Kickstarter is going to be live reads. Because I know people are busy, or people want to be on the show and they still want to push it out because they understand that you have to be in the game. You have to be in the game, and being in the game matters. And a live read goes a long way sometimes. And you know what is it's the idea that I understand it, and I think a lot of other people understand it too. That and also some people say, look, I am running this project, but I am terrified to be on interviews. I know tons of cosplayers who do not want to talk, and they're like, it's not for me. I have anxiety. Guys, I have anxiety too. I got every problem. Actually, I don't have anxiety. I have stress. I have stress because I'm going through hypergrowth. And hypergrowth is insane. But it's the idea that, I'm right now stressed dramatically, but when I'm running my project, if I'm on 70 interviews and somebody's like, yo, you could buy ads on my show for a set amount of money and it's reasonable and they give me a good deal, I might consider if it's another 30, because I might be strapped and I might say, look, if I get 100 shows, a combination of ads and doing live interviews and a bunch of other stuff, I'm looking at a deal right now. And I'm wondering if I can negotiate a better one, because they have 3 things that I want and 2 things that I don't, and I'll pay them an extra $50 to get what I want because it actually will benefit me tremendously and what I need. The idea is that I just think that it goes back to creativity, where people just aren't creative. But It's very interesting because I think trust is a big issue in this community, and it irks me when you say, "Hey, I want you to trust me. I haven't delivered book 2 yet, but I'm launching Kickstarter number book for book 3, and why don't I have book 2 at this point?" And I don't really care if you have a printing problem. I don't care. Then delay your Kickstarter for 2 weeks. I don't care if you have a printing problem, your printer's backed up. My book 2 should be in my hands before book 3 funds on Kickstarter, in my opinion. Of the same.
Exactly. Exactly. This is about trust. Trust is very important. You can't make people believe and get back for more issues, more productions, more stuff from you. If you can't fill your promises on the first issue or the second issue, how can I support your third issue? I'm going to support it only for face or things. This kind of like scam for me as an artist.
It's with certain Kickstarters, I'm stuck where
Yeah.
I'm too invested in to not back it.
Oh,
And that's the problem, is that I'm too invested in not to back it, because if I don't back it, I have the first 2 books backed, and it's a 3-book set. So I have to back book 3. But if you think I'm going to pledge at a higher tier for book 3, hell no, because I'm agitated and I'm not the only one. I can't be. And you think that I'm going to come back for the next series? Probably not. In which that, this is way you lose my money is this way. And I'm also at the stage where I'm tightening up my finances. I'm trying to become a millionaire in the next 7 years, and I will be 35 when I want to become a millionaire, and I'm figuring it out, and I'm gonna try to do it, and I want to be a multimillionaire by the time I'm 45. And it's well known. That's not a secret. And in order to do that, I'm tightening up my finances dramatically right now.
yeah, yeah.
And so, a lot of changes are coming in my life, and
Mhm.
it's fascinating. But I digress. Enough about this. Obviously, it's an 80-page book. A lot of stuff is going on with this.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're in Egypt. You are partners in the UK, I think.
Stu is from United Kingdom. Yeah.
And so very, very cool in that regard. And the thing before we get to the rewards that I want to talk about that I think is awesome, and you wrote to me in this language, which I didn't understand. I was very confused.
Yeah, and I erased it quickly. So, sorry, I was talking to another one, so I had to transform the language and send it back.
Let me explain what you're doing with your book and what happened. So, sometimes I answer messages really quickly, and sometimes I don't. Okay, sometimes it's like I get a message, and I'm like, I'm not answering it for a week. I've done that, especially when I don't like deals in comics and people are being difficult. I understand how to control flow of conversation. So what happened is that you have 2 versions of this book. You have the English version and the Arabic version.
Yeah.
So he answers me in Arabic, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't like. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I didn't say that, but like, I was so confused because first off, I've never seen Arabic. Like it didn't even commute in my head, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, how am I supposed to read this? Like, he answered me in English before. Like, does he speak English? Like, oh, just. So having said that, and then you deleted or unsent the message and answered me, I'm like, okay, here we are. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, not to be offensive to your language, but I'm like, you can just imagine my response. Like, oh, it was
Yeah,
it
I
was
understand. I was talking with a Japanese artist a couple of years ago, and suddenly he wrote his sentence into Japanese. I was, I didn't know what to do or what to understand, and suddenly he deleted it and started talking back to me in English.
Having said that, what prompted you to write this book in both languages? Because it is very, very interesting to do that because you're hitting, a very niche market and a very general market. And it's something that, I haven't seen and come across. And I've been doing this for 8 years, interviewing people in the comic world and the Kickstarter world and all that. So, what was that like to
Well,
that choice?
the first thing when Stu, we're doing it in English because it's comics and comics is done in English. It's a common thing. So Stu came to me while we were joking, and he told me, I do want this book to be translated into Arabic. I did want. I asked him. This is the first time a creator or writer did ask me to translate his book for Arabic. So he said, I want to make this for your fans, actually. So I did love the idea, and I told him if I'm doing these translations, I'm doing them for free of charge. I'm not charging you for the translations. So if you do want to reach my fans, if you do want to reach the community here in Egypt and Middle East, reading books in Arabic, so it's my duty to support you. So this is how and why we did an Arabic version for the book.
I love it. I love it, and I'm a big adapter of technology, and I think that at a certain point, so there are people that I can't speak to because there's a language barrier.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm not bilingual. I only know English,
Hmm.
and it's an unfortunate. I tried learning Spanish and didn't end well.
Hmm.
Is a nice way to put it. And I was language exempt in high school, and then I took American Sign Language in college, and I barely passed that class too. It's things happen. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. It's a miracle I barely passed, but I did do American Pie. No,
Hmm.
not the movie. The good song that's 8 minutes long. For my final project, and I worked my ass off on that shit. I wish I filmed it. It was great. It was pretty solid what I did. Wasn't the best thing I did, but I worked my ass off on it. And you could tell when I worked my ass off. The only reason why I took that is that I wanted to go study abroad, and I studied in the great land of Washington D.C., which is a foreign country. Um, and if you don't think DC is a foreign country, you're wrong. You're just wrong. It is a foreign country. The federal government is a foreign country to the rest of the United States. It's I love DC. Don't get me wrong. I lived there for 4.5 years. Greatest 4.5 years I'll probably ever have. And then when I become president, it's going to be a great 12 years. 12 years as president. Clearly. I know. U.S. history so well, so well. But but the idea is that I absolutely love the fact that this is translated because at a certain point everything's gonna have a chip in their head and it's gonna automatically translate everything for
Hmm.
you. But until we're there, having that option for your fans to say, look, we want to read it in our native language.
Hmm.
I think it's a big deal, and I think it's important. If you are in a country to have that option because unfortunately, a lot of comics don't get translated. A lot of things don't get translated. I mean, a lot of manga gets translated over,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's real money in that. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of money in that, and they sell really well. There's a reason why.
Hmm.
Manga saved graphic novels. No question about that.
Hmm.
Wasn't for manga, graphic novels would not be in Barnes and Noble. They would not be in bookstores. They would not be in comic shops. Midtown
Hmm.
Comics carries a big manga section for a
Hmm.
reason. Forbidden Planet carries a big manga section. TFAW
Hmm.
carries a big manga section. It's not a joke anymore. It used to be. And that
Yeah.
manga section has grown dramatically. I've been going to Midtown Comics, and I live in Connecticut. I used to live in New York. I've been going to them on and off, for almost 15 years. And when I first went into Midtown Comics, their manga section was like 1/10 the size it is now.
Hmm.
So obviously, I love it. But I don't want to keep going on this and blowing smoke up your ass about this because I think it's brilliant. But I do want to talk about rewards, and obviously there is a digital version because shipping is difficult. But there's also a soft cover, Kickstarter edition. There's a David Henry cover, which is not you, right?
David Henry is my brother.
So I want to make sure. I want to make sure you don't go by multiple names. People go by multiple names. People sometimes have multiple names. I'm just saying.
My brother, and he did amazing job on both of the covers. We do have stretch goals with more covers too, but we haven't unleashed those yet.
Obviously, there's the book and a T-shirt, book and sweatshirt, a personal cover drawn, which I like that too. So a nice commission essentially, a sketch cover, but more than a sketch cover, something that there's obviously a little bit more detailed and is very personalized as well. And and also your Kickstarter is very simple as far as rewards. It's not overly complicated where there's not a bunch of options for people to buy things, and you can't really get lost in the weeds. And so what is this like to just keep it simple and have a few options and also have some personal stuff in there and also T-shirts and sweatshirts and things like that too, because people really like that stuff. Not to mention it's really good marketing when people buy that stuff.
Well, when we first talk about Kickstarter, me and Stu was talking about many stuff and overcomplicated other tires, but it got settled down because when you go to a comic panel or go to a table at Comic-Con convention and you find too many stuff on that table, you find yourself kind of confused and ends you without walking by, without buying anything.
It goes to the idea that this is a mistake that I feel, and I'm glad you brought it up. The whole thing that I think is a problem is that, so I know all these creators and a bunch of them are my friends, and they have books they've worked on. If you worked on 30 books, you have 30 books at your table. That's great that you have something for everybody. But guess what? That's really not good. And the reason why is that if I only give you 5 options, you only have 5 options.
Yeah.
If I give you 100 options, then you get to dwindle and you get to say, well, I could go here, 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 here. And there you go. It becomes a problem. There is a magic number where so I used to be a camp counselor. And when I had a difficult camper, I could say, I'll give you 2 choices. You could be at the front of the line or you could be at the back of the line. Where do you want to be? And now they only have 2 choices. And then they say, I don't give them a 3rd choice. Because guess what? You have 2 choices. My life is easier when I have limited choices.
That's
right. And so like I'm obviously building my Kickstarter. I'm going to have a bunch of choices to some degree, but I'm not really having a lot of choices. I think I'm going to have like 10 choices, which isn't that many. Considering what I'm selling, and what I'm offering, it's not a lot. Because in particular, there's 3 choices that are the same. They just cater to 3 different sectors. So I don't know how that's counted, but there's 3 of the same choice, just broken in a different way. It'll make sense on my Kickstarter. The point is that I think when you have 30 books at a table, it creates a bigger issue.
Yeah. Yeah, this is why Stu had to reconfigure things out and adjust the plan over again to make it more simpler for our audience and supporters to have a couple options to choose from to make it easier for them and easier for us too.
And also, and I'm curious your thoughts, because are you doing the fulfillment or is Stu doing the fulfillment on it?
So I didn't hear you quite well.
So are you doing the comic book fulfillment on this, or is Stu doing it?
For filming?
No, fulfillment. The getting the books out on the Kickstarter.
Getting the book out. We both are doing this. We both
So
do.
no. Where are the books shipping out from?
The book will be out from United Kingdom, and he's
Right,
going
right,
to.
right. So the reason why I'm asking this is that also the thing is that when you have something like a book and a sweatshirt, that's also when you're building out rewards. I am more inclined to back a book and a T-shirt, especially if it's an international product versus in the United States, because now I'm going to go bigger. So I just backed a project from Singapore, and I went pretty big on it because I'm not going to go back that guy's Kickstarter every single time. So I might order, if he has 7 books, I might order all 7 at once. And that's the thing too, and that's something that is also very interesting. It's the same thing with a personal cover, where I might go big if I'm in the States, and the reason why is because I'm not going to hit up your Kickstarter every single time. And so it's like I just backed something from Australia. I'm not. Picked up all of the guy's collection because I didn't pick it up before, and I was waiting for him to have a big thing so that I could only have to pay shipping once.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I think is also very interesting about your rewards is that you're offering certain things, and then you're also, I'm assuming, you have add-ons as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's another thing too that's very important, especially when you're doing international. And obviously the UK is a little bit more friendly with the US, but international shipping is a bitch. I'm an eBay seller.
Yeah. This is why we were asking about if we're going to print a couple of copies here in Egypt and print the other copies here in UK, and make it things easier for both of us. I'm not the kind of greedy guy that wants to uh, uh, get every single penny from the creator and leave him by and don't talk to him again. I got my money from you and I don't want to talk to you again. This is not my personality. Actually, if I did work for you for the first book and a couple of pages, I need to support you for to, till this project ends. This is my duty as a human being, not only as an artist, as a friend too. So we hope things get easier for shipments.
Oh, it won't. It's not a COVID problem. International shipping before COVID was a nightmare. It is.
Hmm.
I've been selling on eBay for 10 years. I don't ship outside the US. I don't ship to Canada. I don't ship down to Mexico because it is a pain in the ass because I have to go through eBay Global. And when I'm putting a $300 comic in the mail, no offense, but shit can happen in the United States. And if it's sitting on a boat to the UK, God help us. Okay, I'm really not interested. You know, it's I could double pack it, I could protect it, I could put it in a Gemini in a media mailer, and with styrofoam around it, and it could be fine. Don't get me wrong, and chances are it will be. But at the same time, if it's on a boat for 3 weeks, I'm not too gun ho on it. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, God forbid the boat sinks, I'm not too gun ho on it. So that's
Mhm.
how I feel about international shipping, is that I want a book to stay the least amount of time in transit. Because statistically, the least amount of time it stays in transit, the more likely it is to be safer. And I think that's a logical solution and logics. If a book is only in shipping for a day, there's less shit that can happen to it. If it's in shipping for 10 months, more shit can happen to it.
Yeah, yeah. I understand this because have been ordering action figures now and then, so I do know what you're talking about.
Well, let me ask you a question about your action figures. Are you keeping them in the box or are you opening them?
No, I'm not a guy that would like to keep his hands off from his toys or from his games. As you can see here in the back,
Oh, so
When
yeah.
I get an action figure, I quickly rip them off from the box because I do want to see this action figure move, and I don't care being a collectible or
So,
having this.
so I am a big Pop Funko fan, and certain action figures, I want to keep in the box because they look cool. Like
Uh,
I don't know if there's a. I'm a big WWE guy, and I love Liv Morgan, and so I need to get myself a Liv Morgan action figure. I love Tegan Knox as well. I need to get myself a Tegan Knox action figure. The thing about Tegan Knox though is I got to interview Tegan Knox before she was Tegan Knox.
mhm,
Very cool play by me. There's a guy named Anthony Green, got to interview him before he was August Gray. He's out of WWE now, though, unfortunately. But Tegan is still in WWE. The idea is that certain people I just want in their box. But then again, I'm also a big statue guy, and I like opening up my statues and looking at them and displaying them, and they look awesome. And so I just picked up some Zenoscope statues, and they don't move, but they look so elegant. Only reason why I haven't opened them is because I'm in my parents' house and I haven't set up my studio, and it's going to be a pain in the ass to move them if they're open, which,
uh-huh.
which, which I think makes sense because until I am in a better position, it makes no sense to open anything that doesn't need to be opened.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean I'm not going to open it because it's going to be sitting on my desk in my studio with a bunch of 3D printed guns in the background, which is going to be really funny because I'm probably going to have some.
You have to send me pics for the statues.
I'm building out about a studio eventually.
Oh,
Regardless of whether I do well on my Kickstarter or not, I'm building out a
awesome.
studio. At some point, I'm building out a home studio, and it's going to be phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to it a lot. But
Congratulations first.
it's coming. But I need to get my position fixed first.
Mhm.
Um, and also the housing market needs to be adjusted because once I get stable and I have a job, I'm going to be buying a house or in a
Mhm.
condo or a townhouse, and I'm going to be building out a studio. It's going to be phenomenal, and I'm going to basically build every Resident Evil gun. It's going to be on my wall.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite is a P9 by Hunk. I love Hunk's P9, and I
Yeah.
love a Killer 7 weapon from Resident Evil 4. It's a sick Magnum. It's a sick Magnum. I don't know if it's a real gun or not, but the thing looks amazing. But Hunk's
Yeah,
triple
that's cool.
tap P9 is a sick weapon too.
Mm-hmm. You
Doesn't
can
use.
send me some pics, man.
I haven't done it yet. And you'll be probably on, and you'll probably see it in the background. It's gonna look dope. You're gonna see like a gun wall, and people are gonna be like, "Are those real?" I'm like, "They're 3D printed real." it's like I'm gonna be it's like there's gonna be like the cops are gonna do a search warrant. They're gonna be like, you have guns that are 3D printed on your wall that look cooler than our stuff. And like, sir, we have to take this. You're not going to get it back. Officer, what did I do wrong? Nothing. We just have to take it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. The entire thing. And they're gonna be like evidence. But I digress about that. So obviously, we've been talking for 2 hours at this point, and I do want to touch upon one more topic before I give you the opportunity for self promotion. Um, and obviously, I am curious about two things actually, technically two things. So I am curious about how COVID has been in Egypt because obviously, supposedly, we're at the tail end of it. I don't know. Nobody knows. I'm not a physician. I'm not going to make any speculation. But how has it been for you as in your country and even just creation wise and affecting, everything around you in the pop culture sphere? Because in the US, it's been very interesting where it's been up and down and down and up. And it's been hyperinflated in a lot of ways. And I'm curious how it has been in Egypt because we don't
Well,
hear.
it was terrorizing at first. It was terrorizing at first when it happened, and people did clear the streets of Italy, and life did stop. Actually, shops and other stuff like this. But as for me, I have been a full-time artist one year and a half before it happened. So it's actually my life. Nothing did change about it. Working from home and doing my work. So I'm sitting on my desk facing my computer. So there is nothing new in this for me. Oh, the only thing that happens that I'm only wearing a mask while I'm getting deliveries, and why if I do want to walk with my wife or on the streets or buy some things. This is the only things that changed. Wearing a mask and walking the streets. Nothing did change.
I wish I could say the same in my life, but I can't at the moment. But that's okay. I'm hoping I never ever have to leave my house again. But that's a different position. Actually, that's not true. I like leaving my house. I hope that I get to work from home whenever I start my new job because it makes my life easier. You know, it saves me money, it saves me time. It also allows me to wake up later. I used to work one day a week from home at my old job. Best thing ever. Best thing ever because I didn't have a 45-minute commute both ways, and I saved money tremendously because it didn't cost me any money to commute. It was great. It's amazing. And then the other thing I want to talk about is actually Kickstarter, and I know that you've backed projects, and obviously, you know, this is your first one, but right now there's a lot of projects up on Kickstarter. It's, you know, Kicktober, whatever that means. I've heard Locktober. I've heard, you know, anything over in it, really. And so I'm curious how you feel about Kickstarter because with so many projects on Kickstarter, over I think like 260 at this point, um, can Kickstarter sustain itself? Because it seems to me that there is a way too many comic projects on Kickstarter, and there's only so much money to go around. And how much more can there be in comics on this before the thing falls in on itself? And I think it's kind of a I don't maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious what you think about it because it's a very interesting entity what's going on, and there is a lot.
I do love having too many projects on Kickstarter for too many tastes. When you go to a comic book store or an action figure store and you don't want to buy Star Wars or superhero action figures, you'll find other action figures for other genre, like horror, thriller, comedy.
Wrestling,
This
wrestling
is
action
fun.
figures are
This is
huge.
fun. When you go to a comic book store and you find many varieties to every style, every genre, fantasy, historical, drama, everyone's got his tastes. Everyone got what he loves. So if it's going to be a ton comics out there, it's fun. It's more fun. It maybe it's complicated and it's going to be stressful for comic companies out there, but for us readers and fans and creators,
So
it's more fun for us.
the way I feel, and this is how I feel, is that right now I think it's over 260 projects on Kickstarter. I think there's about 100 too many projects on Kickstarter in comics, just comics. I think that the market is oversaturated,
Mhm.
and I think that you know an oversaturated market can sustain itself for a certain amount of time. But what starts happening is that you know right now I'm a unique breed where my budget is one book, maybe two if it's a good book, or if I backed the book and then the book was $10 with free shipping, I can handle that. That I could handle. But at a certain point, you know, I'm a unique breed where, you know, if I back 12 or 15 projects a year, that's fine. But I know people who are backing 50, 60, 70 projects. I'm like, how do you have all this money? Like, that's kind of crazy. And even if you're only backing a digital tier and you're backing 50, that's $250. At a certain point, though, everybody runs out of money. Everybody hits roadblocks because right now I'm in between jobs. But even when I was making 50K, you know, I had some serious expenses. You know, I had rent. You know, maybe I had an extra 5 grand, but also I was funding a bunch of investments that I'm
Yeah.
making. So like, and this is what I mean by reshifting. So I'm like, where do you people who are backing 350 projects have fucking money? Like,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering if maybe I'm crazy because I'm actually funding a Roth IRA. Maybe I'm crazy because I'm funding a traditional IRA. Maybe I'm crazy because I don't go on vacation and I don't waste a fuck ton of money, and then I'm only able to back 5 projects or 15 projects a year because I legitimately pay 10K between funding the Roth IRA and my taxes.
Mhm.
Put in when I'm 65, I'm going to be having $6 million in my bank account. Like, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Because, and this is what I mean, where at a certain point, I just think it's not sustainable. Where I think that,
Mhm.
especially when we say, wait a second, I got to secure my financial, because that's where I'm at. When I talk about securing my financial positions, I mean,
Mhm.
there's a reason why I don't back a lot of people's projects. It's $15 makes a financial difference because I can turn $15 into legitimately.
Many out there don't just beg Kickstarter campaign for backing it up. Maybe if they are interested enough in the project, they are not paying for backing it up. They are paying to have something to read, something to have. This is what happens with me, happens with others. That when I buy a book, I don't buy it to support the creator. I buy it because I enjoy having my time reading this project. So
I
I'm
mean,
sure there's many out there that think the same.
no. And I get that. Look, I'm reading a bunch of things on Kickstarter, but at the same time, I'm also backing because I'm supporting people who want to do bigger things. And also, I view it very differently where I'm like, hey, look, this person's just starting out their career and their first 10 books are going to suck in reality.
Mhm.
My first 50 episodes, legitimately 9 years ago, sucked in my
Mhm.
podcast. I'm not going to pretend. Now, I've had some high profile people on. I don't think I was that bad, but I wasn't good either. I
Mhm.
understood I was going to suck. But also, if nobody gave me money or anything like that, I was self funded. But at this stage now, maybe some people are saying, "Hey, I want to buy you a coffee or buy you a live read, or I want to just throw you $10 because I know that in the next 5 years you're going to be much better and you need the leg up." And I'm
Mhm.
supporting this because I understand what you're doing, and that
Mhm.
if you need $500 to get the next year, and then the next year after that you need another 500. By year 5, you're going to be self-sustained, and that you're going to be doing 6 times what you're doing. You're going to be good for the community, and it benefits me.
Yeah.
That's how I view Kickstarter in a lot of ways. Is that it's a cool book. It'll be fun to throw up on my Instagram. But what I'm saying is that look, maybe this isn't your winning book, but maybe you need to produce this 4 episode series, get more credentials, and then keep going, keep going, keep going. And then 5 years down the road, you're going to have your runaway hit. And I indirectly supported you because I helped you get every year, every 4 months for $10 over the line.
Mhm.
Because I
Yeah.
actually give a fuck about comics. I give a fuck
Mhm.
about understanding that people need something. It's like I would love to create a private equity fund of saying,
Mhm.
look, I will fund your comic, but I want a percentage of it, and I want a percentage of you. So
Mhm.
I mean, if I had enough money, I would love to say, look, all I want is I want you to create comics. We'll fund the printing on Kickstarter, but the art and everything else, we'll handle it that way. I'll give you a place to live, but I want 35% of every fucking project you do for life. But I'm going to
Mhm.
fund your positions or for a set amount of time. Or, your next 30 projects, I get 35% of profit on it. So I have a
Mhm.
35% equity position in your next 30 issues. I
Mhm.
don't have ownership, but I have an equity position. So I have a 35% stake. I would love to create that personally. But I'm also providing a lot of upfront capital so you can get those 30 issues done. Where I'm subsidizing your housing, where if your rent was 1,500, I'm going to pay $1,400 of that every single month. But that's why I'm getting 35%. I would love to create that. But in order to do that, you need a lot of capital
Mhm.
because I actually give a fuck about comics. And
Mhm.
this is how I view Kickstarter in a lot of ways. I backed a book called Witches of Westchester. I didn't back that book. I'm from Westchester, first off, that's why I backed it partially. But I also understand that they might need that leg up. And if my $10 and 100 other people throw $10 in, book gets funded, that's great. You know, maybe this book isn't the winner. Maybe 3 books down, the creative team behind it has a superstar mega hit. And if I didn't back it and 100 people didn't back that $10 position, they wouldn't have had that superstar hit. And I understand. I think it's very important to think about it like that when you're backing on Kickstarter. I'm launching mine. Maybe somebody has to say, look, Andrew's show, because it's about my show, his show is okay or it's good, but I understand he's getting better and better and better. And that last year he did X, and this year he's 10% better, and the next year that is going to be better. And I need to back it, because if I don't support this, you know, he might not make it, and then he's dead in the water, or his growth is going to stagnate to 2%. But I want him to grow, and I need to back him, not because you know he needs to leg up, and maybe he needs to leg up, and maybe he needs to keep grinding, but then all of a sudden he's going to be the indie comic show.
Yeah, that's right. That's so right.
But I digress right there. Enough of me pontificating. The show is about me, and you just happen to listen.
Well, I'm sure who is going to watch this interview is going to learn a lot from having Kickstarter, having a book organized, and going out there and supporting us. I'm sure this is so beneficial interview. Actually, I learned a lot from this conversation.
If people just listen to my show, you're gonna learn some stuff, and you're gonna not learn some stuff in it. But it's also what you take out of it. I've listened to Joe Rogan talking with Mike Tyson. I know nothing about boxing, but it gave me ideas. Or you listen to Jocko Willink, or you speak to other people, and it's so important. I think so many people don't want to just sit down and say, look, you just work on this thing. Let me just listen to this show. Let me hear what everybody's saying, and maybe you'll get an idea out of something. You know, it's the idea that, you know, I get inspiration from all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, I'm watching an anime and I get a great idea, and then I listen to something and I'm like, oh my god, that's a great idea. You know, one of my most famous anime panels, I just saw on a flyer an American, they're having a Fahrenheit 451 lecture by somebody from the Library of Congress. And I'm like, oh man, I should just throw out an idea. It was just that, you know, sometimes something just pops into your head and the dots connect. And I'm sure that Batman thing we were talking about with the colors, that is a beyond teaching moment for people, and it changes the way you do things. The fact that coloring a book is like filming a movie in a lot of ways, where it matters on what tones you're setting. But enough about that. Again, we've been speaking for now almost 2.5 hours, so I do want to give you an opportunity to self-promote yourself. Obviously, this thing's on Kickstarter. I believe the link is up above for those who want to check it out. I'm not too sure how many days you have left, and I'm not.
We have 18 days. 18 days.
And
we have surpassed our goal, and we are looking to unlock more stretch goals, which is going to be more fun. So go out there, guys. Go out there, warriors,
where can people find it on Kickstarter? Obviously, where can people follow you on, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Follow Stu. Obviously, we should promote him, you know, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Obviously, you run a Facebook group that's pretty accessible for people who are into comics. That's kind of how I found you, and I actually threw it out to you. And you know, it took us a while to get here, but I'm glad we got here, because you reached out to me, or I reached out to you, because I was doing something. You were commenting on a bunch of stuff I was posting, which I always think when people are commenting and tell me to back the fuck off, because I post a lot and I get it, I get some people politely are issuing me.
Yeah, people need you to interact with them. You just can't keep posting videos and without interacting with others. Is this something that you
I know.
build your fan base?
I need to do it more.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest thing to do when you're doing 4 interviews, and you should see my writing schedule. I do 4 interviews a week, and then I take Thursdays off, and then I write Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and it's insane. Like I should spend an hour every Sunday and just interacting in Facebook groups. I
That's
should
so
do
right.
that.
That's so cool. Yeah.
I should do it. I should spend an hour on Twitter just listening to music, interacting with people on Twitter, just having fun. And I should do the same thing in Facebook groups.
That's right. That's
I,
right.
I should do it, but I digress. So where can people find you and all that those places? Where can people find your group?
Oh, you can find me. I hope I can send you links on Instagram. It's always Andrew Henry on Andrew Henry 3392 on Instagram. Black Death, you can follow Stu Bellis on Facebook. Black Death on Facebook. You can always find our works, other creators too, other artists, other writers, other readers
You're
on
going to send me all these links, and I'll just put them right
yeah,
below the interview.
yeah. It's
After it
called
airs.
Artist Jobs and Showcase. It's a group to show artists and introduce and connecting writers with writers and creators, literary colorists, giving a chance and posting jobs. It's very relevant and important things because many out there feels bad for not finding a proper job or an art job to fulfill their passion, a writer job too. We post all kind of jobs on this Facebook group, so please hop inside and join
And
our
I'm going to
community.
add something to that. So next week, I'm having Gamal. I'm gonna mess up his name, but he's a comic book lawyer, and he talks a lot about contracts. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, so comic book contracts, it's very important, right? It protects you from scamming
So
and other silly
so
stuff.
so the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is A, it's a good plug for me, and B, more importantly, before you take a job, me and Gamal are going to be talking about that, or Jamal are going to be talking about contracts between writers and artists and protecting yourself. So if you are looking for somebody and you're looking for a job, whether you're an artist or you're a writer, before you might wanna say, hey, I'm interested in your work. Legitly next Tuesday, we're going to be talking a lot about this. And so I really recommend everybody watching this, checking it out, because it's going to be one of the most informative things on the planet, because we're going to have a real good conversation about this. And and I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time with him, almost 2 years now, and I am beyond excited for it. So obviously that's very important, but also, and I've been saying this, that you have to support indie content creators and indie comic writers and artists and everybody in between. And one of the things that you need to do is you need to, obviously back Kickstarters. You need to share Kickstarters out. Whether you're back in a digital tier, but you're only throwing $3-4 there, whether you're throwing, a big tier into it, every little bit counts, every little bit helps. But more importantly than that, you need to follow people on Facebook. You need to share things on Facebook. You need to share things on Twitter, share things on Instagram, throw it into your Instagram story. All that stuff is free, and following people on those platforms is also free. And it goes a long way. Also, if somebody has webtoons and you have a webtoon, what is that webtoon?
My webtoon is in a smile. It's an action thriller horror. If you do like Metal Gear Solid and Gantz and Max Payne and Hitman mixed together into this stuff, then this is your project. This is your comic, actually. So
I've heard, haven't heard Gantz in a while mentioned, so haven't heard that one. But in all seriousness, you need to also read people's webtoons, because that also goes a long way. You need to
yeah,
subscribe. You
of
need to throw
course.
them money on their webtoons. You need to support people, because we're not DC, we're not Marvel. I'm not Image. I'm not not to pick on Scott Snyder, but I'm not a big DC writer. Okay, indie content creators. This is a passion I love in a lot of ways, and a lot of it people put money up front, or they have a little bit of seed money, but a lot of it is coming out of people's hard-earned money, and it's a
Hmm.
big gamble. And so, you really need to support people when they're doing this stuff.
That's
And
so right.
every little bit
That's so
helps.
right. Yeah.
And, and I'm going to say this for myself as well. I'm an indie content creator. I have a sponsor for my show, but my sponsorship only goes so far. So I have
Hmm.
something called Buy Me a Coffee. It's in the link up above as well. And I appreciate everybody who buys me a coffee because all this money goes right back into the show. It goes
Hmm.
back into buying new equipment. It goes buying, software. God forbid my sponsorship cancels or doesn't renew or I can't find one.
Hmm.
I might be good for a few months, but there have been times. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years and it was self-funded. So, all that money, if I can't find a sponsorship, that money that people, donate, goes a long way. Also, I have perks on Buy Me a Coffee. So if you don't want to donate, but you want something in return, you can pick one of those tiers. And that also goes a long way. My Kickstarter is definitely dealing with some of this as well. That will be launched on November 1st. If you type in conversations in pop culture, it will pop up on Kickstarter on November 1st. Um, and I am definitely that. That's the other thing too, is that I'm an indie content creator just like Andrew Henry is. Obviously, we share the same names. This is not Andrew squared. I want to get that clear. Not intentional. I did not change my name for this interview. I changed it for 2 interviews ago. I just want to make that crystal clear. My stand-up comedy career is not going well either, but that's a different discussion. COVID. Oh, I had the best year ever in COVID. Clearly. But in all seriousness, you need to support indie content creators. And if you're gonna, buy me a coffee, you should back this Kickstarter, and I think you will be very, very happy with it. Whether you back digitally or physically, that's up to you. But every little bit counts. So on that note, I'm gonna give you the final word because we are at 2 hours and 26 minutes plus.
Well, actually, this is the longest interview I have ever made.
So, your final word, is that the final word?
It's the final word. Oh, okay. Well, many thanks to you, Andrew. Actually, many thanks for having me. Actually, I enjoyed this interview so far. We talked about many stuff. I learned so many from talking with you about the industry, about Kickstarter, about campaign stuff, the color palette, creating characters. I wish we had more time to talk about character design
There's
and
always
some
next
artistic
time.
stuff.
There's always book
But
2, book 3. I mean, come on.
okay, but you guys enjoyed this interview as I did, so please go ahead and support Andrew Davis for his show because he needs support. Actually, for he's giving too much
I really
credit
just,
for
I
us
just need a
creators.
share. I just need a share or a hug or send me a
Yeah,
beat, and I'll be happy.
you heard the man. You heard the man. So go ahead, support him,
Yeah, really,
and
really, guys. What I need is I need advice. Okay, I need advice. And the old saying is that if you want money, you ask for advice. If you want advice, you ask for money. So, guys, I need advice, which really means I need money, but I can't say that because then you'll give me advice. So, really, just I need a hug. Is all I need.
so, many thanks again for having me. I enjoyed my time. I hope you enjoyed your time too. So, this is my last words.
And I think I couldn't have said it any better myself. And so, on that note, I believe this is a wrap.